Last week on the Al Nicoletti Show, RJ Bates and Cassie DeHaas on the show. Let's go, guys. How's everybody doing?
We're on the Al Nicoletti Show. Forget A&E. Mama, we made it. The biggest difference between 2020 and 2023 was the ability for us to function on a day-to-day without feeling so beat down at the end.
We've changed a lot of processes in how we use our investor lift. We've honed in those processes and become more effective, more efficient, and it gives us more time to focus on the deal, focus on the language, be in front of the right people.
By implementing and leveraging more of the systems and processes, you had a better experience.
It was 124 contracts in those 50 days. And ultimately what I've seen is I think there's a changing in the guard when it comes to marketing right now.
Because no two sellers are the same, right? And so be the solution no matter what. How you do something in those circumstances makes all the difference in the world.
One of the biggest differences that enabled us to do more deals this go around as well is our network. There is a runway to the amount of transactions you can do with a certain title company.
This is the whole point of having that kind of team.
As you can tell, I'm a little bit obsessed with these KPIs because it matters to me. Like I have a choice of which leads I want to call. So I need to know these things as I'm going along.
How you market and things like that, and how you set your marketing up, like where your leads come from, I think really matters.
So my final thoughts are.
Wait, I got to do the whole segment.
You got to do all the segment.
Yeah,
it's a formula,
whole thing.
RJ.
The execution has to be perfect.
Okay, let's do it. I feel so empowered by this final words, final thoughts. I mean, we're on the Al Nicoletti Show. What crazy ass probate attorney podcast into like the middle of the night? Like he starts on Wednesday and ends on Thursday. Like what is wrong with this guy? I need everyone to drop hashtag bearded Al so he keeps the freaking beard. Like, I got a man crush on you right now. Keep the beard. Do you know what can only make this podcast better? The fact that David Olds is listening to us right now. I was standing on stage at Wholescaling, okay? And I'm speaking and I'm doing Q&A, and the final person that came up was Steve Trang, and he said, will you be on my podcast? And I loved it. And so now I'm going to do it to you. Al, will you be a guest on my podcast?
Yes, RJ, I'm there all day.
I knew you would say yes to me tonight.
For more content on tonight's episode, make sure you go check out the Al Nicoletti YouTube channel, the Facebook page, the personal page, the Instagram, where we are constantly dropping micro content on the show, little clips that we clipped up from the previous weeks and all the shows that we've had. And of course, you can catch all the content on probates, quiet titles, partitions, the weird world. What we always do now is we have the link tree. Scan the QR code and you'll find all the content. You'll find the YouTube channel, all the social media. You don't want to miss it. And if you missed any of RJ and Cassie's episode from last week, how they're doing 50 deals in 50 states in 50 days, and how they broke down the whole segment and what they're doing with closings and marketing, you don't want to miss it. That could be value to you because it is a hot topic and relevant to what's happening in the market. And talk about what's happening in the market and what's relevant today in the commercial world. I got a gem for you. This guy has been crushing it for more than 5 years in the commercial space and been picking up deals all over Jacksonville. And he's got a mind when he's thinking about doing these deals and how you guys can think about how to tackle the commercial space. And Tim Horvath is going to get into this tonight. You don't want to miss it. I got my pen out. I got my paper out. I know you all are watching, and tonight is going to be another epic episode. So let's rock this thing. Hey everybody, my name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their communities that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate, and always bring in the best in the business. We bring on the experts. We bring on the people that go dive in the niches. We bring on people that are current in the market, that are seeing the hot trends, that are in the trenches, that are constantly seeing what's happening in the analytics and the data, whether it's getting into CRMs, whether it's getting into commercial or land. We always bring on the best, the entrepreneurs with mindset and the real estate world, on how you can take your company to the next level. I'm sure you all can see, I feel like I'm in this electric mood today because I we haven't had really anybody come on and talk about the commercial space. We've had Neil Timmons, and Neil's in Iowa, but we really need to focus on what's happening here, either in the Florida market, in the commercial market, and the now. And I'm excited because I've talked to Tim about this probably for a year and a half now. I was like, man, we got to have you on the show. We got to have you come in to talk about commercial. And I'm really happy we get to have Tim in now, seeing what's happened from 2020, 2021, now 2023, and just that whole trend. And we're going to get into some stuff on what's happening with commercial defaults and what's going on, what the hot trends are. So without further ado, let's welcome him to the show. Tim Horvath. What's going on, man?
Wow, that was electric. I got to say, for people at home, that was very impressive. That was first take, unblemished, no stuttering. That was very impressive.
Thank you. I mean, it takes a lot getting into this show, really. There's a lot of prep. There's a lot of, we got to do all the legwork beforehand. And I got to say, when we were on the phone and talking, because we really hadn't talked what you got into before we did all onboarding. But when we were talking about what's going on in the market, I was really excited because, we could get into like, what is commercial, the different assets, but we're like, let the fluff go. Let's get into the hot trends, what's happening, what to look for. And that is something I really want to dive in on today. So like we were talking about, what are some things right now that you are seeing in the market with commercial real estate?
Overarching, you're hearing, thank you, Al. The big topic right now everyone's talking about is their concern with commercial real estate, the defaults that are potentially coming. The common thing you're hearing everyone talk about is in the next 2 years, 50% of commercial loans are coming due. The notes are coming due. Obviously, a lot of those notes or the loans were secured at lower interest rates, right? And then this last year, we had a exponential hike, over a 5-point basis hike in loans. That altered your numbers significantly. When you're doing your cost basis analysis and your interest rates more than double, things are going to change, and that's going to create some turmoil within that market. And with turmoil comes opportunity. So,
I like that one. Yeah, with turmoil comes opportunity, and there's blood in the streets. There's more opportunities, right?
For sure.
So let's backtrack a little bit because I know we had talked about like where things are at, but to get where you have gotten right now, to get to this stage right now, what were you seeing in 21, 2022 that kind of got you in the position you are today?
From a personal standpoint?
Business standpoint, personal standpoint, of what, like, how did you get in a better position so you know what to look for today?
So, I mean, obviously, experience and education is a big thing. So you have to do it, or I'm a big believer of firsthand experience, so doing it to learn it. So I've been, as you mentioned, I've been investing in real estate for over a decade now, mainly focused on commercial this last 6-7 years. So started when it wasn't as risky back then. And as you get experience and you start to build that your comfort level, you take bigger and bigger risks. And I have a business partner he's very financially savvy. He's a financial advisor and he does very well. And we were talking in the last year and a half, 2 years, we knew he felt very confident that interest rates were going to go up. So we have about 100,000 square feet of commercial property, and we refinanced everything with ViStar at a 3% interest rate for 12 years.
So you got in on the good.
We got in on the good interest rates, so we locked in for 12 years, which is very atypical for commercial loans. Most commercial loans are 3 to 5 years, balloons or arms. So
for 12, that's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big deal that we will be able to weather, because of that one decision. We will be able to weather this storm that's coming up, this storm that's predicted to come, which I do feel is coming. Whereas a lot of people that are over leveraged, that's where the blood in the streets come from.
Love it. So you were able to start seeing what was happening, what was bubbling in the market from some of the things you were working on. Mm-hmm. And at the time, interest rates were low. Now the Fed has raised rates. More loans are eventually going to become due in the commercial world. And like we were talking about, because back in 2008, everybody remembers that situation with the housing crisis. Mm-hmm. I know we were talking about how you even believe that we could be coming to something similar to that. Maybe not the exact same thing, but how we're coming into 50% of debts are coming due and commercial debts are going to have rippling effects,
Yes.
and how, the loans keep increasing, people are not paying them off. What are you seeing on the ground level that's eye-opening right now?
Yeah. So, and you're kind of alluding towards like the opportunities that are coming, and it's, we talk about, so when you talk commercial, a lot of people, there's kind of a couple big subcategories, right? There's retail, there's office space, there's hospitality, medical, industrial, and then there's multifamily. So when you look at the loans that are out there, 50% of that is multifamily. So in that category, I don't really deal in multifamily, but that's 50% of the loans. So when they say 50% of all loans. So when they say 50% of loans are coming due in the 2 years, you'll see that. And then office space is the next highest category. 15% of loans are office space. So, when as an investor, you buy a property, you run your numbers, and you take into account interest rates and all those variables. And you have also, it's a money producing asset. That money comes from your tenant occupancy. Since COVID, obviously, a lot of things have happened in the office space and commercial in general, to where spaces aren't being occupied at the rate they were before. So vacancies are going down. So as your vacancy goes down, your income goes down, and that's the income you use to pay off that asset and make your money to stay in business. Well, that's going down. So your revenue stream is decreasing, and then you have a new loan coming due at 2 to 3 times the interest rate you were locked at. So your payment is increasing. We all know in Florida, insurance is increasing,
right?
Taxes are increasing,
right?
And your revenue is going down. So that causes a disassociation there, and you're gonna have a problem when that note comes due, and you have to pay a higher rate. And a lot of banks aren't even. I was at a conference the other day, and there was 3 on the board. Was one of the banks that have the largest holding of commercial real estate loans. One was a second smaller one, and the third was a credit union. So they were kind of trying to give you the scope from all 3 perspectives. And when they were asked about lending an office space, they all said they wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't even touch it.
Yeah, that's what kind of blew my mind when you were talking to me on the phone, and I was like, wait a second, commercial spaces, the office space is a big thing for people, but because of COVID and everybody went remote, that kind of took things back, and that kind of changed the game for a lot of offices and buildings. I mean, you were talking about even things in downtown Jacksonville, and how like you don't want to go into that. And you had said when you went to that conference, people were like, no, like that's not, office space is not the place to be in right now.
Yeah, which is, there's going to be an opportunity, and the lenders, it's not just office space, right? The lenders are being forced to change their lending criteria. And what do I mean by that? Traditionally, when I would go get a loan, let's say it would be 25% down. And it's interesting that in the last 3 years, what a shift there's been for pre-COVID, COVID, and now this I'll call it post-COVID transfer. Because each time there's been significant changes. And I mean, before COVID, we could buy an empty building, fill it up, double the value of the building. And then COVID happened, and all these banks became concerned with being able to get occupancy rates. So then we could no longer buy a vacant building. You had to buy an asset that already had money producing revenue, which it shifted our model. And now you can't even buy office space in that standpoint. But banks are now changing their lending criteria. Back to what I was initially saying, banks are changing their lending criteria in the sense of they want significant more money down. So now, before you were putting 25%, they want 40 to 50% down. So that hedges their bet, right? So they know you're invested as an investor and you're less likely to default. And if you do, they get it at a 50% discount. They want you to have, it's a different credit rating. And then they also want you to have at least 10 to 20% of whatever your purchase price is in cash value in their bank, so that they know you have reserves to last. So if you're buying a $10 million building, you're being asked to put $4 to $5 million down, plus have $1 million in the bank. Like, that makes it a lot harder to get a loan. And if you can't get a loan on something, and the seller needs to get rid of this asset, it's going to be discounted to sell to an investor that has access to that capital.
It just sounds like you right now, with the way it is, you have to have more to play with to be in the game.
You do.
Right? You have to pay to play to be in that game. And then I was intrigued on how you were explaining how a lot of the banking standards change in terms of, before you could just get loans, you can qualify for the loans, but now they want more of that relationship based communication with the people that are going to be buying it. They want you to have that for them to feel comfortable. Sure, the financial situation, but also they know who you are. They know what you're getting into. They know that you can back it up with other properties that you're getting into. Talk to us about that with that standard that you've seen shift in the last year.
Yeah, relationships. This is what I'm hearing from a lot of people in that industry, in that financial industry, that they truly do value those relationships. And I mean, you could say that about a lot of industries, but it's become more prevalent in the banking industry. And the banks, they're not going to bend over backwards for a stranger, and they're not going to take risks on a stranger. Like, money obviously does talk, but they want to keep those people in their system that they know have performed time and time again. And that relationship can be the difference between you getting the deal and not. And that's a big deal.
Of course. Yeah. Especially with even the smaller banks. Small banks are really good with the relationship based industry, right? Big banks, Chase and Wells Fargo,
you're just another number.
Right. But like the smaller ones are the ones that are going after it. What are you seeing with the local impacts in this? Because like that seems with the way that the standard in the industry is going with commercial loans seems, broad, but like, what are you seeing Jacksonville level? What are you seeing like surrounding levels in terms of what's going on with the loan defaults and like what's going to maybe happen in the next 2 years? Yeah,
you're seeing, so from our local market, what do I kind of envision's happening? Yeah, and you alluded to the Wells Fargo building, right? Like that is a lender called note, and the Wells Fargo building is a iconic building downtown Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
And it's the keys are being turned over. The owner of it has been asked to short sell it, and if it doesn't short sell, it'll go into foreclosure. I believe it will sell at the asking price they're asking. It's a great buying opportunity. I mean, that building was initially bought for $75 million a couple of years ago, and I think they're around the $40 million price point.
Wow, talk about a good buying opportunity. Yeah. I mean, that's big numbers. But
yeah,
still.
It's big. I mean, it is big numbers. But when you think of one of the largest buildings in Jacksonville downtown, like Jacksonville, Florida we are fortunate to be in the Florida market. There's still a lot of influx of people coming here, businesses. So we do kind of have a different market dynamic than if you look at California, right, where you hear things are selling at 60% discount already, and we're in, as far as commercial, we're in the first inning of this game. We still got a lot more to go. So to hear those price cuts already on the West Coast is significant. Whereas I feel in Florida and Jacksonville, we're a supernova city, right? Which means we are projected to grow significantly. And that's very good for anyone that has money invested in this market, whether it's residential or commercial. But we're still, we're not immune to the storm. And that's a great example. And there's other ones that in Jacksonville, like the Prominence building over off of Bay Meadows, so Wells Fargo is about 700,000 square feet.
Okay.
Which, for the record, Wells Fargo has been a problem. It's had its problems for as long as I can remember, and it still needs a lot of money into it. You're not just buying a brand new asset at that discount. But the Prominence on Bay Meadows, it's a 750,000 square foot building, and it's right now being sold for $40 a square foot. Just went up. I think $40 a square foot. You can't build a basic house for $125 a square foot. And we're talking about a nice commercial building for $40 a square foot. That's crazy to me.
Huh. So things are just really changing in the market right now.
For sure.
And so with that being said, with like prices even coming down, with loans becoming due, how does that change the buyer pool, and how to best situate yourself in that position to be like, okay, maybe I want to get into this. Mm-hmm. Like, do you have to have the cash? Do you have to have the private funding or have the relationship with lenders? What's the best way to position yourself since the buyer pool is not going to be as big as it is now? Yeah.
So, the reality is, because you want to make something palatable for more to get in and make it. And the reason I initially went into commercial is because everyone was doing residential, and when it's always a supply and demand thing. And I liked commercial, drew me into it because there was a little bit more of a barrier. So less competition is what drew me into it. And unfortunately, as these things tighten up and as lending becomes more dry, there's really this gap is being created. Like this is that separation of like, yeah, big money is going to be playing that game, and versus the smaller people are getting kind of phased out because you have to have so much cash. And these things, it's not only just the buying. What you don't take into account is the maintenance. Like one of my buildings, I've spent in the last year, a roof was $150,000, elevators $80,000. There's 12 ACs on there. Those ACs are $20,000 to $40,000 a pop. Like it is a different game. And it's not that you don't have to just play at that game. There's the smaller properties that can be purchased, and you have to start, everyone has to start somewhere. Like my first property was a 50,000 little office space, right? And that moved me to where I am today. But it is definitely getting harder. So, but opportunities are coming too. Like I'm not trying to be discouraging that, and the opportunities right now, I don't know if I would be encouraging someone to buy office space or commercial, because but the opportunities are coming. So I feel people should be educating themselves on the commercial office space
right now. Like
right
this
now,
is the perfect
now's the time
opportunity.
to educate, right? Because sitting on the sidelines, you can put your money in a CD or mutual fund and get 5 or 6%, right? Like you don't need to go take that risk on a 8%, an 8 cap commercial property, right? And miss buy and mess up your future. But it is a great time. Usually people are going to do research before they actually invest their money.
Hopefully.
And hopefully, right? Like I remember going to Jacksonville 12 years ago, right? And it was for 3 to 4 years. I went there and learned and formed relationships before I bought a house. And I think now is the time for people to really be educating themselves in the commercial space and all aspects, because in a couple years, there is going to be more opportunities for people to get in. And it's good for you to form those relationships, have that knowledge to know what a good deal is and what a good deal is not, so that you can capitalize then.
I love it. Yeah. I think those are great points. Always, I stress this at any event I speak at, like always educate yourself in it first, right? There's a different way of learning when you actually apply it to like a situation that you're going through. It's, one thing to read it, but then actually go through it. But being able to take in and learn from people like you and the experts in the commercial field on what's to come or what they're going to see, or maybe hold back and wait for that opportunity, keep the cash, wait for that, and then maybe even partner with people that get into it, right? I mean, that's a big thing. And I was talking to you backstage about this too, because I think this is interesting. There's a lot of people out there that are seeing things in the real estate market from accounting levels, from just analytics, even in the Wall Street area. And shout out to my cousin Russell Gilbert. Russ watches the show. I haven't talked to Russ in a long time, and he messaged me over the weekend, and he was like, we're talking about some stuff, and then all of a sudden he was like, "Hey man, like, how's the real estate market going?" And I'm thinking, well, I know my perspective of how things are going with like probates and like, in the probate world, there's so many land opportunities right now. Like it's crazy. Like, and also what's crazy is there's even land opportunities that are commercial land opportunities. So people are finding land opportunities all over. And I didn't expect him to say this. And so I gave him my perspective. And then I'm like, what's going on in your world? And he said, yeah, most businesses have cut back. He goes, the last shoe to drop is going to be commercial real estate defaults. And I thought, this is the weirdest coincidence that we're having this conversation right now. And I'm going to have Tim Horvath on the show, and he's going to get into this. And he even said, banks are going to be holding a lot of CRE and trying to sell them off at rock bottom prices that will be at the bottom. Smart investors will lap that up. And I wrote, I'm like, Tim is literally going to talk about this. Expand on that, because I know you were mentioning that to me in the onboarding.
Yeah. In regards to the opportunities.
Yeah, the lap up.
Like we said, it's unfortunately when bad things happen, opportunities are created, right? Like when there is blood in the streets. So I'm excited about the opportunities that are coming because I'm appropriately positioned that way. And that's why I'm telling others, now is the time to educate yourself and to have these conversations with people that that are in that world, like reaching out to me. You can bring opportunities to others, get a portion of it. There is entry pathways into this. It's just about you have to be more creative now than ever. And yeah, I mean, a lot of these loans, in the residential world, these banks would take the loan, sell it off to Fannie Freddie, right? They didn't have that exposure. Well, a lot of the commercial lenders physically hold those notes. So they are concerned that that's why they are altering their lending processes, because they know they're on the hook ultimately. And that can take down banks. So they're going to have to liquidate.
Interesting.
They're going to have to figure out something creative. I don't know what that necessarily looks like, extensions or lower interest rates, and they're eating the difference, but some pain is coming in the market, and with pain comes opportunity.
But it also depends on what asset class too you're focused in, right? The office space is going to be a little trickier, right? And there's different types of asset classes when it comes to commercial, right? Like there's, the industrial, you got the mobile home parks, you got the units that are over what, 5 units?
Yes.
5 and more is commercial.
Yeah.
And so like it was crazy too, because like, he's mentioning that, talking about cash is king. You even mentioned that to me in the onboarding call, like cash is king. But I think what was really interesting is how, you have healthcare data centers, multifamily, and self-storage, and how those are becoming huge opportunities for investors. Like I've even seen some people recently, they'll buy the commercial land and they'll build up the storage unit, or other investors that were doing single family, they shifted into commercial, but they're buying the old self-storage units. What have you seen with like those units? Yeah,
so like, and what you kind of mentioned, so banks try to diversify, right? They don't want to have 100% of any one asset class. So that diversification, you can get someone. So right now they're all trying to limit their exposure to office, right, and retail to a certain degree, but they're all good on industrial, because industrial is demonstrating that it is outperforming the market standards. So each bank has what they're after and what they're looking to loan on, and that encourages investors to go after that asset. If you can get cheap financing on storage facilities, they're going to be, that's going to push people that the banks dictate the market to a certain degree. The lenders dictate the market. And those kind of asset class like storage, mobile home parks, those kind of industrial, those things are performing well. So there's still a high amount of people that want to buy those asset classes because they can get cheap money on it, or good money, and the numbers still work.
That's great. I mean, people are buying them up, snatching them
up,
and going after them.
Oh yeah.
And so what's fascinating too about this, and where you're at, what you're seeing is, you're like, well, the office space area, it's not a whole hold back on, opportunities. If the numbers work and the loan's good, there may be areas to go there. But it's also the fact that because commercial has these other areas, you're like, well, wait a second, what about this? What about that? And I know you were talking about the church, or opportunities at least with things like that. The marina. I mean, I want to hear about this, because Tim's not just getting into all the office space. Remember, like, there's different areas with it. Where are you pivoting? What's going on with these things? Because I think that is fascinating. Yeah,
definitely becoming more creative. So the two deals that you just mentioned, I am currently pursuing a marina, and I love that idea of a marina. To me, it's the compare. I kind of feel like things go through periods where everyone's hot on it, right? Like industrial was that, storage homes is that right now, mobile home parks. And I feel like when I assess marinas, to me, that's a mobile home park on the water. And that's more valuable than a mobile. Like, everyone wants to be on the water. And if the numbers can work, which again, I haven't seen a lot of people going after them. And I've come across one that the numbers look like they work, and I'm pursuing that. So I'm excited about that deal, which I don't know anything about marinas.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
And then there's the church deal, and it's just about being creative. Like you and learning through the process. A lot of these, I'm no expert matter in a lot of these things. Like, and the church deal was, and unfortunately it just fell through because of a lot of things that you would have been able to help with. Actually, there was, but it was a 6 acre parcel. We had one of our tenants, because we offer any of our tenants, hey, we'll buy a building for you if we know they're good tenants, we'll buy it for them. We know they have the financial means. And there was a church on there, and then there was another 10,000 square foot basically warehouse on the backside, and we were getting it at a great price. They were going to cover the debt. We were going to make the money on the warehouse. That's where we were really going to make the surplus, we'll say. And it was 6 acres, but unfortunately that 6 acres was all gifted to the church over the years by many different people. There was 25 titles they were going to have to clear.
That's crazy.
It wasn't going to happen. So unfortunately we had everything lined up, spent thousands of dollars in due diligence, just to find out the week before that we weren't going to be able to buy it.
Well, it's good you did the due diligence before buying that and then realizing you're going to be taking on a huge title issue.
Well, the title company was doing that, but my due diligence involved, the building, the land, all that.
Yeah. So like, that's where I kind of want to expand on is like, these are unique opportunities, right? Like a marina. I mean, who's thinking about that, right? Like who's thinking I'm going to go out and get an off-market deal on a marina. I'm going to go get an off-market deal on a church. But it's like with the marina, like is your, like, for example, your vision to get in there, fix it up, or is your idea like get in there, keep it current, and just keep the passive income going?
Value add, definitely value add. This marina needs some work, and I know they're underpriced, and I know it's mismanaged. But to your point, it's like I didn't ever think about a marina. I didn't like. To me, it's always about action, moving. So as you start to move into, as you start to proceed and progress in your investing career, you meet more people. Opportunities come through that. So it's just about doing something. Like this came through a previous, I know the owner now because I bought a little piece of property off of him, and this opportunity arose, and I didn't know about anything about marinas, but when you see an opportunity, you see an opportunity, and it's because of the domino effect before. So it's not like you just, hey, I'm going to go out and look for a marina today. That wasn't on my mind. It's opportunities present themselves as you put yourself in situations. So that's why I talk about, like, when you go to education, when you're getting educated, on when you're trying to do your research now on commercial real estate, you talk to the people around you. You start to know people. You start to talk to people in your community. Everything, you don't know what conversation is going to lead to the next conversation. And that next conversation can be a deal that alters your life trajectory.
Yeah, no, it's great, right? Build more relationships, make more connections out there in the community. What were you going to, like, what were you thinking about with the church, though? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, what's going through your mind about, like, ooh, the church? Like, was the plan to, like, take it over, make it like a venue idea?
Well, so there was a 7,500 square foot church already, and the church had reached out. The church is a tenant. And we've made it known to our bigger clients or any client that if you find something, if you're outgrowing the space and we don't have anything for you, we would love the opportunity to buy something and put you in it. So we know the church's financials. They found a building that they were interested in, but there was also 6 acres attached to it. So I saw a development opportunity, and I saw another structure on there that they weren't interested in. So they would be, to me, and again, this is a discussion they had. I didn't go out looking for this. They said, hey, we like this. They've sent other things to us that they've liked. I'm like, no, that won't work. But they sent us this, and it grabbed my attention because it wasn't in the best part of town, but it had 2 good structures on it. They were only interested in renting one. Their one that they were interested in would cover all of our debts. And then there was the development opportunity, and then, which I haven't developed anything yet, but I'm willing to learn it, right?
Right.
And
if the numbers make sense.
Yeah. None of this stuff is rocket science. It's just a matter of doing a little bit of research and, reaching out to your network and talking to people that have done it before. And then there was another building, a metal building. It was, I think, 8,000 square feet metal building. I knew that could rent for a decent amount out there. So it's like, why won't we do this? If they're covering the debt, to me, it was a no risk. It was, they cover the debt, we make extra money on the metal building, and we can develop. So, but I didn't go looking for that. That just came to us.
Yeah.
Because of the relationships we're forming.
Right. And it's really great seeing the Jacksonville community think through a lot of these things. You're here. Alex Rose was also on the show, and I loved how Alex was talking about event spaces. Like, you buying these places and then doing like little sections, and then having a birthday party here or this here, just like an event space idea, and just creatively thinking through a buying opportunity.
Yeah,
right? Like
for
that.
Sure.
You even mentioned to me land. Like, again, like I said before, I've seen commercial land be a thing in the probate world. It's crazy. I remember one deal specifically down in South Florida that it was whacked out. I mean, it needed 6 probates.
Yeah.
You know, it was like 6 stuff. You know, it was like, whoa. And it was very complicated. Went back to the 50s, the 60s, and where it was placed was in a shopping center area. It was weird. It was like a shopping center, land, and then another shopping center. And it's like these little opportunities that pop up. You're like, who owns that? Like, I'm even thinking about what's near over here. There's like this little lot of land by the shopping center, and it's like, you know, what's going on? Are they even going to do anything with it? Are they just going to do a hold? I've just seen more commercial land opportunities than ever. Or maybe they're taking a residential land and rezoning it. The zoning board approves all that.
Yeah.
What have you seen with the opportunity in commercial land?
I mentioned to you before, I think I'm actually in a deal right now. I'm a third investor in 6 acres of commercial land out off of Eastport, and that's industrial. I think more opportunities are popping up on the land because people aren't able to develop the land at this point in time. So they're either off selling or not as interested in it, because you do have that significant holding cost. But again, if it's zoned for something that people want, like industrial or storage facilities, it's going to have more eyes on it, but not as many people are buying those assets, land assets. But if you have money to sit on, that's where the opportunities are, right? Like that holding cost is there, but you can get things for pennies on the dollar right now, and in the near future.
Yeah. I'm seeing what people are doing too is they'll see one lot, and then there's a whole bunch of other lots, and they're like going down the line, buying them up, and then either trying to take all those lots and then redevelop it. And
it's just, this is what I say when you're talking about being creative. And like when you talked about that deal that was a pain, like that, those are where the more complicated it is, the more opportunity there is for the investor, right? Because if it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Right, exactly.
So I look for those hard deals. I look for things that are stopping people, that barrier to entry, because that's where the opportunity is. It's not walking to your neighbor and buying their house necessarily. It's a little more complicated than that.
Yeah, figuring out what the loan opportunity is going to be. Maybe you got to do a refinance or have somebody come in and buy out the current lender.
Creativity. You got to get creative. You have to get creative right now in the commercial space.
Interesting. Well, you heard it right there from Tim. I mean, you got to get creative with these deals. If you're going to get in the commercial space, or really any space for that matter, you have to really start thinking about what opportunities. Have a plan A, plan B, plan C. That's really important. Tim, so I see the big picture with commercial for you and like where deals are coming from or where opportunities can come from, relationships, meetings, you know, being around people, being near people. But what would you say is also some other sources for off-market commercial opportunities? Either maybe it's data-wise, or, you know, is it more like, you know, being able to pull lists, or, you know, some people go that route too, right? Like, you know, some will pull like, you know, LLCs or Inc. or stuff like that. Have you seen opportunities where people are like, you know, they're not actively saying, hey, let's list this now, but they're, you know, in the back of their mind, you do maybe mail or cold call. Have you seen any of that work?
Yeah. I've seen it. The big thing. So, you know, skip tracing, when I say that, they're looking up the individual on residential, they're looking up the individual's information. When you do skip tracing on commercial, most of the owners are LLCs, so it creates another barrier. It's it's still doable, but you skip trace the entity and then you have to contact that individual.
Are you going to Sunbiz or something?
You do. There's a reason that's not as, but it's an extra step, right? There's 2 extra steps, especially if you have a VA doing this or something, which, you know, sounds easy, but unless
you take your data list and it goes from like 10,000 to like 100, and you're like, these 100 are great.
Yeah. But I actually have a good friend of mine who he's created this program. He's skip traced basically all the people, all the commercial properties. He's sectioned them out into like industrial, the different categories, and is literally has someone just calling all of them, seeing if they're interested in selling. So yeah, and that's a very good, you know, if you call everyone in Jacksonville, there's only so many commercial properties in Jacksonville, and I focus in the Jacksonville market. So if you call everyone, I think you'll get at least a deal or 2.
Hey, That works right there, right?
Yeah.
Have you thought about even expanding outside of the Jacksonville market, or do you just like the idea of the local, stay local, be local?
I do. I'm born and raised in Jacksonville. I like to be able to put my hands on my investments, meaning I like them close by. And I am very pro Jacksonville. Like, I think we are fortunate. I'm fortunate to have been born in this market. And I think we are all fortunate to be in this city right now. Florida in general is a great state to be in. Jacksonville and overall is a great city to be in. So I've committed, to me, I'm all in on Jacksonville. All my investments will be here for good or for worse. I've played my hand.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, ever since I moved here, it's been amazing to me. I mean, the community's been amazing. I mean, everybody I've met, it's a close, tight-knit community, and opportunities and deals, they pop up. Everybody's collaborating here instead of competing.
Yes.
And so that's a one-up in a different market like we are versus somewhere else that they don't, collaborate, right? And so you'll go to the same meeting with people that are doing commercial, and instead of it being, well, they're doing this, you're like, hey, how do we JV and pull into that market?
Yeah. And I will definitely 100%. This market is great. I will say especially in the residential side, because I do residential flips and stuff. There's so many people like Yellowbird, Jaxria, they created that community, and they've really shifted the culture in Jacksonville. I'll say in the commercial world, I've seen a lot more people, because information is the key to getting deals in commercial. There's not as much collaboration going on in the commercial. There's definitely those people that are, but it's not as investor friendly as residential. I will say that.
How could it get more investor friendly?
That's a good question. I've been trying to figure that out, and I don't have the answer. I don't have
more meetups? Is it more?
Yeah, but then you think about, I mean, yes, right. You need to have some face-to-face relationship building, but it's getting those individuals to meet up is the difficult thing. And I don't know I don't have the key to that answer, but it's something I have thought about significantly recently.
It's not just going to be pizza and coffee.
No, pizza and coffee ain't getting those guys together.
If there's a deal, if they open the pizza box, there's a deal right there. Maybe everybody's
everyone
coming.
will be there.
Somebody gets a special box. Yeah, because that would be amazing collaboration.
I agree. It's been on my mind. It's been on my mind recently how to alter that, and I don't have an answer. So if you do, reach out.
There you go. Reach out to Tim if you're interested in getting that collaboration going. Tim, have you also made really good connections with like the city officials too when it comes to either permits or zoning or anything like that? Or are there any hurdles that you've seen too when getting into commercial with that arena?
So I'm trying to think of how to answer this. I'm fortunate that I do know some people that are on like city council or involved in some boards, but I will be honest, it has not really benefited me. Like they'll talk to me about certain things that are common knowledge to people, but I haven't been able to have any strings pulled. I wish I knew the right people, because I'm sure it's happening. It's helping the higher ups, but I do not know anyone of that level.
It's crazy too, because like when you go down Beach on 3rd Street, you see that hotel. I don't remember what hotel it is, but you see the setback line is right on the street. It's like, who are they talking to when it came to stuff like that and doing development?
Money makes the world go round, man. It really does. I mean, that's just the truth of reality, right?
Yeah.
But I don't have those connections.
Yeah.
Let the record show I do not have those connections.
He made it clear, but those are things that, some people do focus on, trying to make those connections, because you never know if that could change or make or break a deal.
Yeah, I mean, it helps. Obviously, it's not what you know, it's who you know is the saying that's very common out there.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. So tell us, what's next for Tim? What's on the horizon? What's coming, either business-wise, brand-wise? What can we start seeing from Tim?
Well, hopefully that marina deal goes through.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Me too.
Get to do a whole video.
I mean, I happened to try to buy a marina 3 years ago that happens to be near this one, and that's how I became aware of marinas. And then this one happened to come up because of a deal I did. Anyways, so started a property management brokerage. So, we have been fortunate in the office spaces and the commercial real estate that we do have to have a very high occupancy. People started asking me to help them out. I said, okay, let's, it's something synergistic. So start to help other investors with their like Alex Rose is a client of ours. So that property you were talking about that he bought from Kyle Paskowitz over there, with that event space, we manage his offices over there.
Cool.
Yeah. So started
Connections.
So started the brokerage, buying and selling, growing that side of things, property management, and still I'm ready to buy more stuff, man. Like I said, I'm all in Jacksonville, and I'm excited for the opportunities that are coming for us.
I love it. Yeah, and do a plug too. So he owns and runs Bold City, right? But it's Bold City Acquisitions. There's Bold City Property Management.
Yeah. So Bold City Acquisitions is my company that I flip houses for with residential. So it's just me. Bold City Commercial is the company that I buy commercial real estate in. And then Bold City Property Management is the brokerage that manages and buys and sells real estate, commercial real estate.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, and we've been dropping Tim's content and where you can find him on social media and his whole business. If you want to get in touch with Tim, reach out. You got any opportunities or you want to learn more, you see what he's talking about. You see the opportunities coming and the things that you need to look for and educating yourself. And I think that's so important. I stress that all the time with the speaking stuff. I mean, education is none other than the best thing that you can do right now in anything you do. Tim, I love it. I love where this is going. I'm really intrigued to see where the market's going in terms of all these defaults. And like you said too, I remember you were like, it either goes one of two ways. It either goes back to the same situation that happened in 2008, or it comes very close to it, and then it's going to rebound hard. But in any circumstance, it's still going to be strong.
Yeah. So when we were talking, it's, people, there's always this fear mongering of like, the world's going to crash. This is going to happen. And it's like, as far as real estate goes, right. And it's like, we're in America. It's one of two ways. Things are either going to rebound or the economy is so bad that no one cares about money anymore. So it's like, if you're betting on America, I would go towards any real estate asset and invest in it in the right, especially in Florida. Mm-hmm. But you're going one of two ways if you have a long-term perspective.
Yeah. I mean, just pay attention to where the market's going and listen to experts like Tim that are niched out in the commercial world, and you're getting into other things like fix and flips too, right? You do.
Yeah, I've been doing the fix and flips for a while. That's just fun money.
That's a side thing.
That's
right?
fun money.
Yeah,
that's
fun money. I'm glad you say it like that.
That's the fun money.
Some people don't even want to get into that kind of world.
It's a pain. I mean, the fun money comes after you get the money. Yeah, the process isn't the fun part.
The money's the fun part. Yeah. All the other stuff and dealing with contractors and subs is
correct.
A whole other micromanagement situation.
Correct. Yeah. Yes.
Tim, I'm just so happy that I got you to come into the studio, to come over here to talk about all this stuff with commercial. I mean, it's been a long time coming for us to like actually do this, and perfect opportunity to get you on. And we always do something on the show where if people come in here in person on the podcast, I always present a mug and a t-shirt. So you're one of the few that get the t-shirt and the mug, and we'll make sure we do this. We'll do the whole thing. Yeah, Mike, let me know if it looks good in the camera. But we got the t-shirt here, the official Al Nicoletti Show.
I love it.
T-shirt. Yeah.
That's a good logo. I like that logo.
Yeah, you like it?
I do.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, so so this is for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then we give you the mug.
Love it.
The official mug, so now you can drink your coffee in it, and you get a dose of me.
I love it.
Yeah.
Al, thank you so much for having me. Honestly, I do love your podcast. I love your energy. I love everything about it. So I'm honored to be here. So thank you.
No, thank you, man. I'm so glad we got to do this whole thing and make it happen.
Me too.
As I do on the end of my shows, I always do a final segment for the guest. Mm-hmm. It's called Final Words, Final Thoughts. It could be anything that you want to talk about that we didn't cover, or any final emphasis words. We've had people, they've done one word. We've had people talk for a minute, 2 minutes, but I want this to be your moment. Final words, final thoughts. Tim Horvath.
My final thoughts are, I think there is a lot of opportunity in the market. I think people should be optimistic of the situations that are coming, even though they can have a negative spin. And if you do have any questions, I really do mean it when I say reach out to me. I'm more than happy to talk. I love talking real estate. I was going to take that opportunity to curse and leave that because I wanted to be bleeped.
Still can.
No, I won't do that to you. But I do appreciate you.
Thank you. No,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for coming on. And I love it. And, you know, I want to see where things are going with the marina. You have to do a full recap video. You got to do like a whole shoot about like what happened, where it's going, and then the whole
If it goes through.
Yeah, do it.
Yes.
Tim, it was a pleasure, man.
Pleasure
Thanks so
was
much
mine.
for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. If you missed any of the episode with Tim, you want to go back and check it out, rewind. He talked all about the commercial loan defaults potentially coming, what different assets to look out for, and diversifying your portfolio. That it's not just all about office space, but also venture into the other things in the commercial real estate space. Like he was talking, whether it's churches, marinas, land, you name it. But also the most important concept, if you didn't learn anything from the episode, the one thing you got to pay attention to is educating yourself in this industry. Before you start jumping into things and spending money, educate yourself and build connections. Build the connections at the RIAs, like Tim was talking about. The RIAs, the meetups, it's the people that you're meeting with in your local market that can really change the game and bring more opportunities to the table. So again, if you missed any of that episode, you want to go back and check it out. And usually I've been doing opening thoughts, and like this is the second time I'm like doing final words, final thoughts, Al Nicoletti. But I'm just going to piggyback off what Tim was talking about. Build the relationships that you have in the community and strengthen them. Go to the meetups. Go to the different local places. Whether you're in Jacksonville and you're going to Jack's RIA or Yellowbird, go to the meetups. Or like Sub 2's been doing stuff too. Sub 2 meetups. Go there and strengthen those relationships so you can potentially find opportunities, because it's not always just a list. It's not always that. Sometimes it's word of mouth. It's what people are talking about. Some people don't want to deal with a certain kind of deal. And then you may go, well, wait a second. We just did 3 of those the other week. So maybe you partner on those deals. Build those connections. I love that advice from Tim. So, all right, everybody, you have another episode on a Wednesday night. I hope you learned a lot. If you missed any of it, check out all the social media, scan the QR code, and we will see you next week with another banger. Gonzalo Corzo coming on the show from Cash Geeks. You don't want to miss it. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.